Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero? So I'm going to make today's little starting spiel, the little first few minutes that I spend at the beginning of each one of these, talking about a principle I've been talking to a lot of individual clients about, and I thought it would be good here. And the concept that I want to introduce is what I'm calling the 1% principle. And this is the antithesis to the all or nothing approach to improving what you're doing in life, to improving your status, to improving how much money you make, how much weight you want to lose, how much less alcohol or weed you want to consume, anything, food you want to eat. And I found, and if you agree with this, please let me know, but I found that a lot of people set up these goals. Actually, a lot of gurus will tell you, set these really great goals, right? Expect more from yourself than you've known to expect. So set up, if you want to make more money, don't say I want to make $200,000 a year. Tell yourself you want to make $1 million a year. If you want to lose weight, yeah, you'd look better 8 pounds lighter, but why not lose 25 and really just knock it out of the park? Anybody here? These sort of approaches? Maybe not surprisingly, I'm going to go at this from the other end. And I did a little math for us before, and I calculated what would happen if instead of believing that we have to go huge, right, that we have to just knock it out of the park every single time, we allowed ourselves to actually think in small, incremental, tiny changes. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have to make a commitment to change on the front end. But what if we promise ourselves that every day, every week or so, we're going to improve by 1%, whatever it is that we're looking for, whatever it is that we're looking to do, right? So if I want to lose weight and I have this big goal in front of myself, all I want to do by next week is reach 1% of that goal. If I want to make more money, let's say I want to double my income, how can I find a way to improve my income to get closer to my goal by 1% in a relatively small time frame, a day, a week, something along those lines? And the thing that keeps a lot of people from doing something like this is it sounds insignificant. It sounds like it's not going to achieve anything. It sounds like, who even cares about 1%? Like, let's say, just for the math's sake, right? Like if I want to lose 50 pounds, 1% would be a half a pound. A half a pound. Like imagine saying to yourself, I only want to lose half a pound a week. I like doing this with percent, and I'll explain why in a second. But imagine saying to yourself, I just need 1%. And how can you feel right now, even as I'm talking about it, just how much more manageable it is to go down by a half a pound over this week? Now, if you do that, can somebody do the math really, really quickly? Let's say you want to lose weight and you can commit to that half a pound a week. Where are you in a year? You're at 26 pounds. You've lost 26 pounds. Now, if you do that, not only have you lost 26 pounds, but my guess is you've done it in a way that is continuously able to be maintained versus one of those flash diets where you lose 20 pounds and you have a hard time keeping that off. If you're looking to make money and you want to reach, a $200,000 increase in your pay, that seems monumental and becomes overwhelming. How many people have been overwhelmed before because the goal you set for yourself seems, you want it, you really, really want it, but it seems so insane that even though you really want it, and we talk about this in the course at some point, your beliefs that you can get it done don't match up with your ability to reach that goal. So 200,000 feels huge. 20,000 might even feel big, but like, can I figure out a way to make 2,000 more dollars over this next week, over this next month? Breaking it down into these really, really small increments can make a huge impact. And in the end, it doesn't preclude you from having big long-term goals. It really doesn't. But so many of us only look at the end goal. We only look at the end point and say, that is so far, I'll never be able to be there. We just wrote, and my computer quit in the middle of me publishing a new Psychology Today article on harm reduction. You know, everybody talks badly of these non-abstinence, non-black or white kind of approaches to helping. But I would argue that in the end, almost everything in life happens in steps. And if we can accept that, most of us will actually find out that we're already experiencing way more success than we imagined. And those of us who aren't will understand that, at least for many of us, that big goal seemed so far-fetched that what happened, we became paralyzed, right? That perfectionism paralysis, you know what I'm talking about? We ended up feeling like that goal is so huge, I'm never going to reach that. So what's the answer instead? I might as well not try. Yeah, fuck it. Why even try if I can never reach that goal? And I've seen that become debilitating for more people than I can even tell you. If there's something that I could do to make people stop having that internal perception, you've never done that in any other aspect of your life, right? You didn't learn algebra, you didn't learn trigonometry before you learned how to add and subtract. You didn't learn how to ride a bicycle by just looking at a bike and jumping on it and all of a sudden riding it. You fell and you tripped and you slipped up, but somehow, somewhere, we decided that when it comes to personal goals, these things that I want to reach in my own life, with my own brain, with my own body, I should be able to jump these monumental mountains. So the 1% principle is actually about compounding. You will notice that if you keep this to literally like 1% of my remaining goal, what can I do today that is 1% of my remaining goal? You will get bigger outcomes than you ever could have imagined in your life by keeping small incremental steps that are so easy to achieve, you slip over them. You know, $200,000 lifetime increase, or like annual increase in income. Just imagine only having to figure out how to make 20 or 50 more dollars a day. Whatever it is you do, 20 more dollars that day and 20 more dollars that, and then you compound that over time and you find out that some of that gets remind. It's incredible. And yes, as I'm seeing here, I think the end goal is all about happiness. The end goal is actually to be satisfied. But what we do to ourselves by setting these indestructible superstar, Mount Everest level goals, is we actually suffer in happiness because we think we're setting ourselves up for success, but what we're setting ourselves up for is disappointment. So I urge all of us, as we continue this conversation, to think how we can break down these big monumental goals we want to achieve into steps that are so simple we can't fathom not being able to reach them, right? It should seem so easy to get to that goal that you actually know with certainty you can hit that mark. I hope that makes sense. I noticed for a lot of the people that I talk to on here, that, man, that curse of perfectionism, right? Everybody out there, you know this, all of you know this, everybody out there thinks of addicts as what? How do they think of addicts? Hopeless, worthless, doomed, lazy, unmotivated, uncaring, liars, right? We've all heard that. Why do we lie? We lie because we don't think we measure up to what we believe we should be for other people, right? We slipped up and we don't want to tell anybody because they're going to think poorly of us. Honestly, I mean, some of you say this to me in messages yourselves. We're the opposite of lazy. We actually spend our entire days looking for ways out of this shit. Sometimes so much so that we have persuaded ourselves that we're hopeless and lazy because we haven't found a way out, and that feels to us like it means that we're failures, the way everybody else has talked about it before. And so we buy into the we're hopeless, we're worthless, we're lazy myth, even as we're doing the work, even as we spend the entire time doing the work, trying another program, quitting this, going to that. We're constantly looking for solutions. And yet in our brains, we've fed in, fuck, I'm having a bad day. Everybody told me that I'm just going to keep having bad days. It doesn't matter how hard I try because I'm worthless and I'm a loser. Might as well not try. Instead of, oh my God, I used half as much today as I did the day before. How fucking incredible is that? We feed into this bullshit that if we're not perfect, then we're worthless. If even perfect is not good enough, we are setting ourselves up for failure, right? Because there's no way to reach that goal. It's like sitting in a room and saying, you know, unless I can be a billionaire by next year, there's really no point in even having a job. Why make any money if I can't be the richest human being on the face of the earth? We all do it, but it's seriously fucked up. There are two things that I think are monumentally important for seeing where we're going. If you didn't listen to the podcast episode about perception and how our perception is skewed, all of the assessment tools in week 2, put email reminders, put calendar reminders, start doing them every month. If you really feel like you're stuck, start doing them every week. And the reason is this. You are all experiencing change all the time. This is an old adage. I'm not making it up. It's nothing new that I'm adding to the mix here. That whole idea of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, that's life. It's always happening. But what happens in our head? If you don't measure how you're doing, what happens in your head is you'll have a good day. Like, let's say you have a day where you didn't drink at all, or you didn't eat too much at all, or you didn't have an anxiety attack, or you were able to have good interactions with others. You'll notice it a lot of times, not always. Sometimes you won't even notice it, but you'll notice it and you go, oh, that was a good day. And then the next day, you'll have some trouble. You'll have a drink, or you'll get into a fight with somebody, or your anxiety will pick back up. And that voice comes in. That's why we work on beliefs so much. That voice comes in and goes, I fucking told you. Celebrating that shit yesterday. You're nothing. You're never going to be anything. You're a loser. You're always going to fight this for the rest of your life. But just think about this, right? Think of that proclivity to do this. We're writing an article on this too. You're here. Why are you here right now? If not to string together a whole bunch of good days. Aren't we all just here to make a string of good days longer and to make each little bead of a good day be bigger and stronger Isn't that the entire goal? I mean, it doesn't matter how well this program works for you or any program on the face of the earth. It doesn't stop life. Life happens. All we want is to have more good moments in the middle of all of this, don't we? But we do absolutely nothing to pay attention to them when they show up. We spend no time celebrating them. We move on. We go, okay, that was great. What's going to get fucked up next? How am I going to screw this up next? And then when something actually does happen, we can spend hours, days, weeks feeling bad about it. Imagine, first of all, imagine flipping that. Imagine flipping that and saying, like today, okay, how about this? Just literally today, right before I got on with you guys, I was, so when we do our Psychology Today articles, I write out like outline and paragraphs and sources that I want to do. And then I have a writer to help me put it all together. Because honestly, if I had to write a new article or 2 articles every single week, I wouldn't have time for this. I wouldn't have time to help people. I wouldn't have time to do anything. I would just be writing because I don't write that quickly. You know, it can take me like 5 to 6 hours to do an article completely from start to finish. So I get help in the middle, and then I get it back from them, and then I edit it, and I post it on Psychology Today. Well, the way I post an article on Psychology Today anyway, it takes about an hour. So for an hour before this, literally since noon, I've been sitting just typing it up, putting all the links in, doing all that stuff that you need to do for Psychology Today. And then at 12:56, my laptop resets itself. No saving. I mean, I still have the Word doc. But that hour of work of, that's my dog, sorry. The hour of copying, pasting, putting everything in there, just gone. And my assistant, Maddie, walked in the middle, and I told her right when I was trying to get on the phone. And, you know, the old me, like the 10, 12 year ago me, would have been so pissed. I would have been so mad. And the funny thing is, I would have been mad blaming myself, because what I should have done, actually, what would have helped the situation was if I would have saved as I do the work, which is a pain in the ass in Psychology Today, but it's doable. And if I would have done that even once, some of my work would have been saved. And I would have sat here during this entire thing and been beating myself up about screwing that up. But instead, I acknowledged it. I said, okay, I'm going to have to go do that hour of work again after, because it's going to take me the same amount of time again. And I got to move on to something else that is enjoyable. And so by truncating, it's not like it didn't bother me. It bothered me, but it bothered me for 2 minutes. I told my wife, Sophie, I said, right now I feel like I want to throw my laptop. But it lasted 2 minutes. And then I moved on. And that's not the old version of me. You know, I want you guys to know I had to put habits in place, just like you need to change the way I look at things. When I get into a fight with my wife, it's not that we have a perfect relationship, but when we get into a fight, when the fight is over, you know, 5 or 10 minutes later, we're done. Sheila, you're mad at yourself and you're letting it pass. Part of it is letting it pass, but the other part is not ignoring it, not pretending it's not there, but saying, okay, I'm upset that this happened. That really sucked. Is thinking about it more going to make it better? No, I just have to redo that work. So let me move on. Let me put another bead of positivity on my necklace for the day and work at it that way. We have to measure our progress. That's number one. Take that wheel of life every week. Take the quality of life assessment every week. Once you've hit your stride every month, I think you still do it about every month or every once in a while, right? Not only is it going to let you know what you need to work on right now, but it's going to do another thing. It's going to let you pay attention to what has already worked. Once a month, Dumont does it. I do my gratitude journal, the 5-minute journal every morning, not because I have extra time. I probably do, but that's not why I do it. I do it because by doing that, I get to keep track of where am I heading that day. And if especially in the middle of family crisis, especially in the middle of everything else falling apart. We have to have the skeleton to let us hold on to something, because that's when shit falls apart. So first of all, start measuring how you're doing. Don't just believe your fucking head. I tell a story in that podcast, that Friday podcast, about how I woke up believing that I'd been up all night. The baby woke up. I thought I'd been up for like an hour and a half, just tossing and turning. But I have a sleep monitor, this Fitbit on my, and it actually turned out I was only really awake for 15 minutes. Now, was I awake for 15 minutes or an hour and 30 minutes? I don't know. But there's really good evidence that I wasn't awake for the first hour and 30 minutes. The stories in our heads are not 100% true. And if we can have some objective measurement along the way, it'll help a million times. Then the second piece that I think is really important, I don't have time. There's so much going on. I'm traveling. I don't have time to take off of work, etc., etc. To me, this is the biggest benefit of something like Ignited Recovery. I was joking with somebody a couple of weeks earlier. But if you only have 5 minutes in the bathroom, tune on the next video and turn on 5 minutes and just click and just watch and just pay attention. I mean, there is no treatment. There is no rehab. There's no therapy appointment you can do to fit it in where you can barely fit things in. But what we're doing here, you can. Is it easy? No, it's not easy, but it lowers the threshold. And that goes right into what I was saying earlier. Look, would it be great to have 4 hours a week to just sit and commit an hour to this every time and an extra hour to watch what we said so you can go over your notes, and then have 2 or 3 hours to go over the material in sequence and then go and do the homework so you've got like 5 or 6 hours a week to dedicate to it? Sure, it would be. But we're human. And we have life. And we have ups and downs. And we have moments where we don't feel like doing the work and moments where we do. Don't get impatient with yourself when it comes to doing the work. Right? Don't fall victim to what you're being told constantly, which is, if you're not dedicating every moment of your life to this, then you're not serious about it and you're half-assing it and you're denial and all that bullshit. I have a singular definition of how I know if you're serious about this or not. You showed up. If you're watching me speak right now or in a recording or 3 weeks later, whenever it is, you're serious about this, because if you weren't, you wouldn't be doing this. But that fucking story in our heads, that story in our heads that people have told us over and over and over is, if you're not all in, then you're all out. But it's just not true. Again, just like we talked about earlier, it's just not true. So if all you get is, watch this on the plane during your travel or listen to it, that's why you can turn the video on and just listen to it in the car as you're driving to wherever it is you're going. Recognize that you're doing work the entire time. That is the definition of doing work. You're doing it. Don't beat yourself up for not doing it perfectly or not saving enough time. That's other people's bullshit. If you really want to dedicate more time, stay up an extra 20 minutes. Wake up 20 minutes earlier. Find the moments in the day. Don't put those expectations based on what other people think you should be doing. Work this based on your own ability to do it, and it'll work out for you because you'll reduce the shame. Shame is when you feel like who you are inside is the opposite, is the antithesis, is the negative impression of what everybody expects you to be. And you really care about those other people's view of who you are, and you hold those people in high regard, so you write yourself as being worthless. And here's the reason why I always fucking hate it. I'm going to go at the middle of this. I hate it when people talk about addicts like they're lazy, unmotivated, lying pieces of shit. They don't understand that when this started, all we wanted to do was be okay and for everybody to just accept us and to just feel like we belong. But it never felt that way. Ever, ever, ever. When I went to the therapist that first introduced me to positive affirmations, and it was like 12 years ago or 11 years ago, and it was this laminated sheet. it was dual-sided. I think there were like 95 or 100 and some positive affirmations on that sheet. It took me 3 minutes to find 3 affirmations. He required 3 affirmations before we started the session. I found 3. It took me 3 or 5 minutes to find those 3. And I wasn't excited saying them. It didn't resonate with me the moment I said them. But the reason if you feel like Stuart Smalley when you say it is because that negative voice that has been there forever is mocking you in your own head. So don't say I'm good enough and I'm lovable and, gosh darn it, people like me. Say something you actually believe. Start out with something you actually believe. I'm tenacious. I'm persistent. I don't give up. Find something positive about yourself that you can say out loud and just hold on to. Okay, start exercising the muscle in your brain, not really a muscle, but you get the analogy, the muscle in your brain that allows you to think positively about yourself. How many people here primarily have negative self-talk in their head? I used to all the time, guys, all the fucking time. On and on and on and on and on and on and on. Always. We're not used to, the idea of saying, I'm great at what I do, or I'm a strong father or a strong partner sounded ridiculous to me. I'm lovable sounded fucking insane. It's just about the practice. So just start out small. Start out with the practice.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.